All right, Sergio, can you please mute everybody? All right, cool. So, right, we're pretty much now in it's a weird spot, right? Because we finally got our monthly and our 3-month closures, right? So our monthly closed as a bullish engulfing, right? But keep in mind, this is still considered, a retracement. Not only that, but obviously our 3-month close too, and that's very bearish, right? So for the most part, I'm pretty bearish for the rest of the year. Probably bearish for the next 2 to 3 quarters if we ever reach down here. But I mean, in terms of overall direction, right? Because somebody asked me this, so it's like, look, just looking at structure here, right? That's our high, that's our low, right? We had a bearish break of structure from a macro term here. So all this is correction, right? And you can tell by the momentum differentiation, and now that obviously this swing structure has already been taken out, and we've already came back here to mitigate whatever's there, and it looks like we're in the middle of the impulse, right? And that's the only thing I can assume because of what is given, right? There, the only bullish scenario is from a swing perspective, but from an overall perspective, this looks bearish, right? Which to an extent doesn't make sense to me, because obviously it's the U.S. dollar. You don't expect that from the dollar, but I'm trying to trade both ways too. So I also see the perspective of, obviously seeing this swing breaker structure, right? And all this could be is the continuation, right? So I'm looking at both biases. So now I'm just really trying to secure, entries on both directions, just to cover myself for the swing perspective and pretty much go from there. Because if this is the narrative here, if this is the real narrative here, that's a break of structure, and this is the mitigation, then your next target is relative equal highs, right? So it's pretty weird because for me, EU looks a whole lot more bullish than DXY looks a lot more bearish, right? Because obviously this is an impulse to the upside, right? And all this could be is a reaction, and this was the swing break of structure, and this is the mitigation from the 2-week candle, or the 2-week inefficiency, I believe, and we're currently in the impulse, right? Which means that would be our next target. Which to me, like I'm a whole lot more confident in this, right? Which is why that DXY correlation is a bit confusing to me, because I can easily see it, going both ways. Whereas EU, I only see it going, bullish. But it's a weird situation to be in, because obviously dollar moves EURUSD, so I'm not really too worried about it. Just because I'm just waiting to see what happens from here. But that was actually tapped. But I'm not really too worried about these monthly POIs. I'm just more so just referencing them for the for the next 3 months. So this closed very bullish. I do expect either a wick down, right, and then another bullish candle to the upside, or this could just literally continue, right? I easily see both scenarios playing out, but for the most part, I have no reason not to be bullish on this. Especially over the last week, and that was where technically, if this is a schematic, which I'm still not convinced, right? Honestly, I'm not convinced at all. This looks so much just like a bear flag, I'm sorry, more so than distribution. But right, since I said that, obviously I had the sell-off down here, but I closed it. I actually closed it around here, right? And that was because of the momentum here. 100% that was the reason. And honestly, I switched my bias right there. And the reason I did that, right, was looking at this. Right, we're still in bearish structure. Right, so now this was the pullback, and then I saw this, right, I think it was during London, oh no, during Asian session, right, and this was an Asian session move, which then created the intraday break of structure here, right? So we just had a liquidity grab to the downside, right, and it's a liquidity grab because it instantly went in and came right back up, to then a break of structure, which led to corrective movement, and that gave us an impulsive move to the upside, which means to me that momentum is to the upside currently. So any move here would be a mitigation to the downside, right? And there was that 5-minute candle that I showed you guys. It didn't hit it perfectly. I think it broke it barely, but due to the fact that it broke it, right, that automatically gave me the narrative that that probably isn't where order flow is meant to go. All it did was take out the liquidity, because then it probably was going to give the real move soon afterwards. So I did not catch this. I actually caught this, right? Mainly because I didn't know what to play off of here. So I just waited, right? Because me personally, I would have waited for down here. I would have waited for this wick here, right? But unfortunately, I didn't get that. So as soon as the reaction occurred, right? So I'm looking at this, right? I'm looking at the structure here, right? Unfortunately, I didn't get my POI, right? But I'm looking at structure here, intraday structure, right? This was the last high that created the last low. So I then saw the pullback come back, right? And then this happened, right? Just a quick downside move to then come right back up. So to me now, this is a, pretty much a sign of strength technically, but more so it's showing that, it's showing an unwillingness to continue lower. So if it's not going to want to continue lower, it's going to continue higher. So all we did from there, right, was create technically, right, a new higher high here. So because that was the move that occurred there, this is now my structural range, and I actually took a trade from inefficiency here. All right, and the reason why I took my trade was the reaction given. Sorry. So, right, I immediately saw these two wicks and these two candles here, right? We see bearish diminishment of volume, right? And I saw these two wicks begin to be broken, right? And that's not necessarily what's telling me that I want to buy. I'm more so worried. Oh, not more so worried. I'm more so paying attention to the reaction from this POI. What happens as soon as we tap either this, the 50%, or the closure, right? So I noticed that the open gave a very impulsive reaction, right? And I say impulsive because I'm more so using momentum rules here, whereas these three candles, right, struggled very hard to reach this POI, and then we have a quick reaction. So my trade was at this candle here because it followed an SC rule of It followed the SC rule of an impulsive move post closure. So my trade was here, and my stop loss, right? Your aggressive stop loss, that's like a 0.5 pip stop, but obviously I don't tell you guys to do that, right? My stop was 2 pips, which was below, you know, the overall potential, or pretty much where the overall validity of the trade, you know, will occur. And by that I mean there's always a chance it could go to 50% or it could go to the closure. So 2 pips was solid there, and my targets obviously TP1 is that previous high, right? That's already a 5-to-1, but my main target for the day was that previous intraday high, right? But since this intraday high is essentially the mitigation of this, right, I would now aim for these equal highs, or relative equal highs, I'm sorry. Right, and that was a 17-to-1, and that's currently a 40-to-1. But best case, this flies, and in my opinion, I think it's gonna fly. I think this is gonna trap people. I think this is just I think this entire schematic in quotes isn't a schematic. I really honestly don't think so. For me, it's way too easy, and the distribution doesn't fit the narrative, and that's why I've pretty much been looking for an excuse to want to take this buy position, right? As I've told you guys this for weeks, like I have not been confident in this potential schematic, right? And the reason behind that is just I'm not confident that that fits the narrative that we're trying to portray here. For example, look, this is too easy for me to believe that we're really about to do an entire Wyckoff cycle, right? Where you have accumulation, reaccumulation, distribution, whereas this would then go to redistribution, right, back down here, right? That doesn't make sense, right? And I think I even said this in the Wyckoff videos. I don't believe in that part of Wyckoff. Because I don't believe markets move this way, right? You don't see markets going like this, right? You don't see markets moving like that for the most part, right? Obviously there's exceptions like CAT CHF that's been ranging forever, right? But I'm not saying that follows that particular I'm not saying that follows that particular Wyckoff overall model, but you know, pairs do sometimes move like this. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to show you. Just going to do this. Oh, well, this finally moved, but as you can see, this for like a couple years this was just doing this, right? But back to this, right? I don't believe that this is a Wyckoff cycle waiting to happen, because I don't believe in that, and two, it doesn't fit the narrative that we're trying to portray, right? Our entire narrative since March, since the launch, since pre-launch of RCV has been bullish this, and for the most part that's what occurred, right? And we've even taken out these relative equal highs, right? And then this caused the reaction from this liquidity grab of this wick here, and I'm not convinced, like, just because this is the correction, this doesn't mean that this can't just fly, because structure is still to the upside, right? And something that I'm also correlating here is how deep the retracements have been. The retracements have not been too big. Right, so who knows? Who's to say this correction isn't the same size as this correction, right? Which it pretty much already is, right? And then the intraday structure has already shifted, right? Not because of the momentum that I showed you, which I took my trade off of, but because of the impulse of the mitigation that I actually took. That's what broke structure. And so now I feel like we're clear to at least come back into these regions here, right? Back into the range. But if we break this, oh, that's a wrap. That's a wrap. This is going to fly. And my next target will definitely be there. Right? But based off of how impulses have been, right, there's always a chance this can go to this next level of liquidity. Right? So this entire impulse, if that's the exact same that happens, right, that would easily fit to taking out this next high. Right? So I'm actually going to try to find the sell scenario, because even though, I mean, for the most part, our daily is bullish, right? Our H1, H4 is not bullish. So for the most part, this should go up, right? But I'm still going to play devil's advocate here, and I'm going to go against myself, right? So once we reach regions here, I'm going to look for an excuse to sell that not only fits the narrative of the sell scenario, but I need it to be, you know, a pretty convincing scenario. Whereas I'll see 2 mitigations before a trade, or I'll see, you know, a very clear scalping break of structure with impulsive move, and then try to catch the mitigation there. But I'm going to be very conservative with it, just because I know that, you know, I'm very confident that this can easily fly here, and I really won't be surprised if it does or doesn't. But I'm prepared for both scenarios. And other than that, I mean, e.g. managing this, right? So looking at, so we already spoke on all of this, right? This was a liquidity grab, any potential mitigation of the liquidity grab. So right from there, we broke structure, continued, right? And then after this, we got the free fall, right? Meaning that this is now our structural range from here to here. And we've already reached the premium, the extreme premium, right? And in case you don't know what happened there, this is a very unusual, like, I knew this was going to happen, honestly. I knew that this was going to range up and then give a liquidity grab, but I didn't know where exactly. I was looking for more so around here, but that was already there, so I was just pretty confused. So I didn't really trade London last night. I really wanted to wait and hopefully try to get something like this, right? But unfortunately, that didn't happen. But what did happen was this inefficiency failure, right? So inefficiency fail happened, break of structure, no pullback, continuation, right to here. So now this created a not so convincing lower low, but we are now left with relative equal lows. So I'd love to see any type of pullback to then take out those, right? I just want some decent RR there. And if we take out these relative lows with an impulsive move, then we'll easily get there. And then after that, it's free fall, hopefully, right? Because I really want to see how the momentum pretty much works, or pretty much happens here. Because obviously from this perspective, from the swing perspective, right, impulse, correction, right? But what I'm doing is I'm playing off of the monthly, which is what, you know, this entire scenario is based on, right? And for the most part, it looks like it wants to start playing now. We got the reaction, so now I'm waiting for the follow through if we're gonna get it. All right. So other than that, I mean, there's not really much to talk about. We finally got those quarter closures, so make sure you guys check those out. Take them as you wish. Just more so, just get your experience up. I did have a topic though. Let me see. Okay. So from my perspective, right, when I was making the content, right, for RCV, right, the toughest part that I pretty much noticed after that, right, after I've seen you guys use the concepts. Obviously, some people caught on, immediately. Some people it's taken them a while. Some people they're still trying to get it. And the biggest obstacle that I've seen is essentially this. Converting hindsight to foresight, right? And that means transitioning from not only being able to read scenarios, but to be able to project scenarios. And the only solution that I've been able to think of is obviously the course, right? The material. I feel like it's a great foundation because it's kind of broad, even though it's specific in some things. I believe it's pretty broad to where you guys can build on it. So the goal is, right, what I said. This is pretty much the first rhetoric that I pretty much made was doesn't make sense, right? The biggest obstacle here is doesn't make sense, right? And the reason why I say that is because if it makes sense, then that means that you've already developed a plan and have found a way to see it consistently and act upon it consistently, right? But to pretty much give another perspective of that solution is to not only study the principles, right, but developing a trading model based on that. And that's, what I mean by that is essentially finding your type of setup, right? Like, for example, I'm not gonna say people's models, but there's a couple of guys in the group where they only take X type of setups. So the challenge that I want to give you guys now is for you guys to find your kind of setup, right? And not only that, but once you've found your type of setup that you're always seeing, write it down, note everything, every single detail. I want you to write it out, right? Note it out, right? And if you want, you can show it to me. If not, it doesn't matter, because I'm not gonna give you an approval on it, because at the end of the day, trading is very perceptive, and it's very based on what, how you see it, right? I don't see it the way you see it, right? So because I have a foundation, I want you guys to be able to build a model from it, right? Like, for example, my twins, they have their own model. Juan has his own model. Kos has his own model, right? Rav has his own model. Raj has his own model, right? So even though they follow the same principles, right, the exact setups that they take are not identical, right? There's always little, twists and turns to them, and that's just because their individual model is different, right? Doesn't have to be too specific, doesn't have to be too broad, but it has to work for you, right? And there isn't really much to that. That's all there really is to it. Find your model and write it out and live by it. That's all it is, right? Let's see. What are you guys saying?
Fredo, quick question that you probably answered, but if I'm looking for like an inefficiency fill setup, do you always look for the volume divergence?
No.
No?
Other than the two concepts, inefficiency or SCs, everything else is just an extra confirmation.
Okay.
But don't take that with a grain of salt, bro. You have to find what works for you. Like I just said, literally what I just said.
Yeah.
Like that's ultimate. Right. I feel like that's ultimately people's goals. But as for creating your own model, I don't know if I can like. How do I say it? If I can create a rubric on how to create your model, I don't think I know how to. I don't think I can do that. But with time, who knows? But I mean, other than that, I mean, I don't really have much to talk about tonight. Right? Pretty much the summary of today. Converting hindsight to foresight is creating a model that fits you. Right? Once you find your model, you now figured out how to make sense out of this market, which is what I've been trying to say for months. Yeah. You know, Juan says that, Raj has said that, Rav has said that, take your L's. Yeah, I don't have an example. Right, or even actually hold on. There is one thing that I've been seeing in almost every single journal. And that is that people give up on setups so quickly. Like if they don't get it on the first try, they just give up on it. And that's so like that's such a terrible mindset to have, right? And let me tell you why. Because the style of trading that we use, right? It's the margin of error, you know, is very very small. You have to have almost everything perfect to get, you know, these scenarios to work. So just because you don't get it on the first try doesn't mean that the setup or the overall direction is invalid, right? And even here, right, just interpreting, you know, a schematic, right, that's currently playing out. And for example, let's say, right, this is the break of structure. Let's say there's an SE here, right? And you took a sell here, right? Obviously that hits stop loss, right? But because that hit stop loss, that means that something took out the liquidity here, because notice it just took it up and then came back down. So just because you took an L here doesn't mean you can't catch the next mitigation and then make a crazy move, right? So just because you have a downtrending, right? Right, let's say we're here, liquidity grab, you take the L because you wanted an SC continuation, right? But you then come back and you can actually catch the mitigation and then continue structure. Right, there's going to be so many opportunities to moves, which is why I kind of prefer when members try to swing trade over just intraday and scalping, just because you get so many more opportunities of the same scenario and that follows the same narrative that you're trying to read and emphasize on. So even if you take that one loss, you know, obviously, even if you take 3 losses, right? I'm not saying, you know, try that many times, right? Usually I don't try more than 2 to 3 times, but just don't just give up on it. That's all I'm trying to say. Just don't give up on it. All right, you took your L, realize why the L happened, and if you can't make sense out of it, just move on. But other than that, I mean, I'm pretty much done. Don't get frustrated because you're not winning. I didn't become profitable. Yeah, you didn't become profitable for 3 years. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, swing trading it's nice because for example, I can have like 3 swings up, and I can be up 70-80%, and then, you know, that means I'll be blue the entire time. So personally, I hate seeing red. So seeing the blue every day, you know, it's, you know, helps psychology. But yeah, it's a process. I mean, we're about to reach 6 months next month. Well, in 10 days. Yeah, in 10 days, RCV officially turns 6 months. So just keep in mind, it's barely been 6 months. For most of you, it's been way less. Right, because most of my 6 month people that joined from the beginning are already seeing good results. Yeah, man, that's all it's about. Improvement, refinement, consistency, and accountability. That's all it is. But do you guys have any topics or anything you guys want to get off your chest or anything you guys want to talk about. I'm pretty sure I finished every journal this week already. I'm missing one because my iPad was tripping, but I'll get that done tomorrow. But other than that, do you guys have any questions? Oh man.
Nah, like I would just add like that, like for me personally, like this year, I think last year, this time around last year is when I took my trading like seriously. So like I'm just big on keeping myself positive, you know, like in high school, like I used to be a depressed ass kid. So like for me, like just had like, you know, fourth quarter's coming up, 2020 is coming to an end. I know so many people wrote off 2020. If you're not profitable, bro, like these are last 3 months, you know, like set your mind to it, you know, get ready now to go into 2021, like ham, you know, like Fredo said in the chat, like these trading conditions have been difficult for me too. Like I think this year, I think I've gone like 3 months sitting on the sidelines just waiting for a setup, and it's frustrating. But I'd rather sit on the sidelines than blow an account. You feel me? But
Yep.
you know, like I said, you got 3 months left in the year. You know, level up, put in the work. Like, just put in the work now so you can go into 2021 ham, like ready. Look at whoever wins, whether Trump wins, Biden wins. The markets are going to cool down because if Trump wins, the markets are going to be like, all right, 4 more years, he's out. If Biden wins, he's not crazy. Things are going to cool out. You feel me? So either way, just put in the work. You know, 3 months left in the year. Go into 2021 ready. Don't write this year off. I haven't written it off. I mean, you know, just put in the work. I mean, I like talking about it because, bro, I wasn't profitable for 3 years, bro. I wanted to quit so many times. I remember depositing every single check I'd get every week and blowing it, bro. And, like, I shit you not, bro. Like,
Oh
I
my
ain't even trying to
gosh.
kiss ass, but, like, until I met Fredo, I didn't become profitable. So, like, if I can do it, y'all can do it. Like, seriously. Like, and I'm not smart, bro. Like, I ain't smart, but I mean, this ain't hard. Like,
aren't you a
it's
high
really
school
not hard.
dropout?
No, I graduated with a 1.9, but
Oh shit.
but
Damn.
I shouldn't, like, technically I think they were just like, get this kid out, bro. 1.9, get the fuck out. Like we're done. Like, you know?
Yeah, I
But
feel that.
seriously, like for real, like 3 months left. Let's put the work in. I truly believe y'all can all, like, yeah, honestly, I've messaged Fredo and, like, in the chat and be like, yo, these kids are impressive, man. Like mad respect to all of y'all, because y'all have been learning this like hella quick. Like you guys are really like you guys are impressive. Like for real. Like you guys are like, sometimes like I'd be like my jaw be dropping because you guys are good. Like seriously. Like you know, so like I said, 3 months left. Let's put the work in. Let's end the year on a high note. You feel me?
Mhm.
So that's all I gotta say.
But yeah, other than that, I think we're good. Yeah, man. But yeah, other than that, I think we can end it off there.